Okay. They were talking about, in the last parak, about being ma'ayim, intimidating the Edom. After they would intimidate the Edom, they would ask them 7 questions.
Every single lawsuit, everything.
Right now we're talking about Edom. I believe we're talking about both Edom, Dinam Amnes and Dinam Nefashis. But we already said in previous Gemaras that for the Bedikas, which are the other sort of extracurricular questions, were much more machmer by Dinam Nefashis than Dinam Amnes. So you ask them these 7 questions. What are the questions? Be'ez Shavua. Be'ez Shavua means which set of 7 years in the Yovel, right?
Every Yovel right away or months later.
Usually it's kind
right
of
away,
fairly
right?
close. I mean,
right.
Yeah, and yes. Which year of the Yovel? Which set of the Yovel years is it? Be'ez Shana, which year of that 7-year Shemitah cycle is it?
Sure means the Pasha, right?
Right, but over here it doesn't mean that. Over here it means the Shavua of Yovel. Which 7-year period of Yovel is it? Okay. Because we call that a Shavua also.
Be'ez Shana.
Be'ez Shana means what number year of that Shemitah cycle is it? So before he said it's the 3rd Yovel cycle, and then you say the 2nd year of that Shemitah cycle. Be'ez Chodesh, which month? Bekam Chodesh, what day of the month? Be'ez Yom, what day of the week? Even though it's funny. Why are you saying if you say the day of the month, you say it's the 12th of Teves, right? What if it's the day of the week? Right? So the Gemara is going to say that because we're going to talk that it's possible for people to get mixed up in the day and the month because in those days they didn't have calendars like we did. They're Mekadosh Chiddush up here. You could have a mistake. We're going to talk about that later. Be'ez Shah, what hour of the day? Be'ez Makam, in what place? All these questions, you need them because if you don't have them, how are you going to be mazim the guy? You have to know when it was, and you have to know where it was, so that 2 Eidim could come in and be able to say, Imano Yisim. And the halacha is, an Eidus Shiata Yachal Azima, an Eidus that can't be Huzam is not an Eidus. So you have to have an Eidus that's Yachal Azima, and these are the questions that you need to have to be able to be mazim. Rabbi Yossi
They were with me in Chicago.
When?
In Marayisim.
When?
When the first cut said all this information.
So they said that information that you have to know when we saw Reuven Kol Shimon. When did you? And you were with us in Chicago, yeah? Yeah, but that wasn't when we saw Reuven Kol Shimon. We saw Reuven Kol Shimon the day before we were in Chicago with you, right? So you have to know which day it is that they're saying that they saw Reuven Kol Shimon. Rabbi Yossi says not all 7 of these questions. He's saying the following 3 questions: Be'ez Yom, Be'ez Shah, Be'ez Makam. Which day, which hour, and which place. And that's enough. Because Rabbi Yossi says, similar to what you were saying, you'd see that it's that the Gemara is going to say, you don't usually wait, 15 years before you come and say this. Why do you have to go which year of the Yovel? Still don't wait 15 years.
No, I know.
Right? So the Gemara is going to talk about that. Then Makirin Atem Isai, they ask, now these starts, we're talking about the Bedikas. These are not Achkirs. Do you recognize him? We want to know, is the guy, was the victim Jewish? If he wasn't Jewish, the guy's not going to be Chayav Misa. Hisartem by, did you give him Hasra? However, if it's a situation of being made on somebody who's being over Avodah Zarah, Esmi Avad, which Avodah Zarah did he worship? Of a Avad, what kind of worship did he do? Call Marva Bedikas, and the more you check in these Bedikas, these quote unquote extracurricular questions, besides the 7 Chakiras, that's better. Maisa, there's a story of Vadik ben Zakkai. Ben
Zakkai.
Yes, similar language, right?
The best they don't want to kill me about it. It's the half.
Ma'aser Vadik ben Zakkai. I know. It's very similar. Ma'aser, the story of Vadik ben Zakkai. Ben Zakkai. I don't know if this is Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai or someone else. Usually we call him Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai in the Mishnah, so maybe it's someone else. Ben Zakkai was baidik in by the stems of the figs. 2 Eidim came in and said, "We had this is what we had." 2 Eidim came in and said, "We saw this and this happen under this fig tree." He said, "Yeah, well, how big were the stems of the fig trees?" To see if the 2 Eidim will match. They asked 1 Eid, and then they asked the other Eid when the first Eid wasn't, not in earshot of each other, to see if they matched. Ma bein chakiris levdikas. What's the difference between chakiris and bedikas? Chakiris, in the chakiris, those 7 questions that we started with, echad amreni yedea edusam b'teila. If one of them says, and even one of the questions, I don't know, the edus is batal. And like you probably remember from the Gemara and Makkas, even if you have a kat of 100 edim coming in at once, and one of them says to one of the chakiris, I don't know, I don't know.
Everything.
That cancels the entire thing, right? Bedikas, but by the bedikas, if one says, I don't know, and even if both edim, let's say you only have 2 edim, and both of them said, we don't know, right? They asked, how big were the uksei ta'enim? We don't know. Edusan kayamas, the edus still lasts.
Well, that's not the main thing.
Right. Now, if they contradict each other, then we're going to have a problem. But if they don't know, that's not the problem. Echad chakiris ve'echad bedikas, b'zman shemachishin ze'asei edusam b'teila. And that's what we just said. By chakiris and bedikas, if the 2 edim contradicted each other on the answer, then their edus is batal. No, it's not pashut, because remember we had a Gemara before that said that by dinam mamanis, the bedikas, when bedikas are makash, it may not be a problem. Certainly, if it wasn't the actual etzem thing, like we said, was the wallet that you lent the money in black or white? Right? Reuven lent money to Shimon. Was the wallet black or was the wallet white? Right? What?
What did you see?
What did you see? Right, that was the question. Right? So the Gemara talks about, we had this Gemara before, it talks about whether by dinam mamanis it's a problem. So it's not so pashut. It could very well be, we'll discuss it in our Gemara. I didn't look that far ahead yet. But we already did have part of the discussion on this before. If one said this happened on the 2nd of the month, and the other one said it happened on the 3rd day of the month, the edus lasts.
One day when we were there before Shkia, we didn't know exactly what Shkia was.
No. That's talking about the day.
So it's not like it was 5 o'clock and then 5:30.
Right, no. Both of them said it was Monday. And one said it was Monday the 2nd of Tavis, and the other one said it was Monday the 3rd of Tavis.
Problem.
It's a problem, but the Gemara says that's okay because it's a normal mistake, because could very well happen that it was there was the month before had an extra day added. It was 30 days, not 29 days, and one guy knew that it was 30, so he knew that today was the 2nd. The other guy thought it was 29, so he thought today was already the 3rd because he thought they were missing a day. So that's a normal kind of mistake, and therefore it's not Seisha Deidus. It's really on the side it says it should be echad. If one said it was the 3rd day of the month, one said the 5th day of the month, edusam b'teila. That's not a normal mistake. That means that they're not being made on the same thing, or they're lying or something. Somebody said it was 2 hours into the day, and someone said it was 3 hours into the day. Once a guy said it happened at 8 o'clock, one said it happened at 9 o'clock. A.M. Edusam kayamas, they ate this last, because that's a normal mistake. People make that mistake in those days. By us, I don't know if halach l'maisa, right? By us, we have watches, we have cell phones, we have clocks all over the place. But in those days, you didn't know. If one said it's 3 hours into the day, one said it was 5 hours a day, so let's say one said it happened at 8 o'clock, one said it happened at 10 o'clock, then edusam b'teila, the edus will be batal, because that's too much of a mistake. People chap that amount of time. Rabbi Yehuda says no, that big of a mistake people still make, that's a normal mistake, and it lasts. However, and this even Rabbi Yehuda related to Echram Rabbi Chamish ve'Echram Rabbi Sheva, one says it happened 5 hours into the day, in other words, an hour before noon. And one said it happened 7 hours in the day, an hour after noon, edusam b'teila. Then there edus is batal. Shebachamish chama b'mitzrach, b'sheva chama b'merev. By an hour before chatzais, you have the sun is in the east side of the sky, and an hour after it's in the west side of the sky. So that's not a mistake that people make, and therefore even Rabbi Yehuda will ask him that it's going to be a no good. And then, once you do the chakiris and the bedikas on one aid, then you bring in the second aid and you check it. And into the vrei mechuvanim, if their words align, that they're consistent with each other, you start with his chas. If you remember, we had the Gemara before that says you start off by telling the guy, listen, this sets tone for the whole Torah. It sets the tone by saying, listen, if you didn't do it, you're going to be okay. Right? That's what you start. Rashi quotes it. You say to the Baldin. Yeah. What was the Sprach? It said, Eloi katlas loy sidchal. If you didn't kill the guy, don't worry. Right. So that starts off the tone in a way we're trying to patter the guy, assume that he didn't kill the guy. Now. If one of the Eidim said, I have a schus, I want to say a schus for the guy. Or one of the students says, I want to say a chayv for the guy. Mishas, can I say, you quiet him, you don't listen to them. Because we said before, we had a Gemara before, that a person, a single aid can't talk even anything, and we said the reason is, not a schus or a chayva, besides his testimony, the reason is, because let's say he says, Reuben killed Shimon. He starts getting worried maybe that two Eidim are going to come in and be mazim him and his friend, the Eidim who came in. So he thinks to himself, oh my goodness, if this guy gets killed or gets a nigmar, I think that he's chayiv, and then two Eidim come and mazim, they're going to come and kill me, the Eid. Right? So you know what? Let me say a schus for the guy. Maybe he'll get off, and that way I'll be safe. So it looks like he's in the Gebeda, so we don't listen to him at all, even when he's going to say the schus. But at the Talmidim, we will listen to the schus, the Mishnah is about to say, but we won't listen to the chayva. Amar Echem in the Talmidim, yesh l'lamd al schus. One of the Talmidim said, I have a schus for the guy.
Why don't the Talmidim before him? Be quiet. Don't say anything. Why I told the Talmidim say the chayva? Tell them you don't say it.
Yeah, so the Talmidim should know that. But if they start saying a chayva, you quiet them down. Yeah, they should know this already.
Be quiet. Don't talk.
Yeah. But if they have a schus, they should say it. Now, Amar Echem and the Talmidim yesh l'lamad alav schus. Lamad alav schus. If one of the Talmidim says, I want to be lamad schus in him, malin I say, you bring him back, you bring him up to sit together with the rest of the dayanim. Yeah, and you have them sit there for the rest of the day. Because he's being melamed schus. He wouldn't go down the whole day. And if there's, he has what he's saying is he's tiny gut, then you listen to him. Even if the Baldin himself, the guy says, two of them came in and said, Reuven killed Shimon. Now Reuven is standing there, and Reuven says, look, I want to say something in my behalf. I want to say it's limit chus for me. And then Shimon, you listen to him also. What?
He's counted as something?
Not for the dying, but when you listen to him, he has the right to say it's chus for himself.
In Raja courts, you have to give the guy a chance to give his last.
I think there are constraints about what he's allowed to say and what he's not, and what they listen to and what they don't. This is we're talking about he can actually talk to the merits of the case. He can, if he's a Talmud Chacham, he can say, look, this is what it says in Shulchan Aruch. Or look, you can say it was self-defense. Or
he's on dying.
Huh? Yeah.
He's on the pipe.
Yeah. Now, they had the whole back and forth. If they found this chus for him, they pater him. And if they didn't find this chus, it comes out that the consensus seems to be leaning towards the chiyuv. You leave it overnight to go to the next day, because we already said that you have to be malin as a din. You have to sleep overnight. You have to sleep on it if you want to be mechayev the guy. They would peer off on the dayan would peer off 2 by 2 to handle with the case with each other. And they wouldn't eat very much. They wouldn't drink wine the whole day. You have to have a clear, unfuzzy head. And they handle the halacha in the sugya for the whole night. And in the morning, they got up early, and they come to Bezdin. The one who the day before said, it's pater, I hold his pater. He says, Ani Mizaka, I was one of the paters. Mizaka Ani Mimkaimi. And I still hold my place. I still hold that he's pater. Because if you remember, we said that the Mizaka can't go and change his mind and say that he's Mechayiv. But Mechayiv, and the guy who the day before said it's Mechayiv, he says, Ani Mechayiv, I'm Mechayiv, Mechayiv Ani Bimkaimi. And I'm still saying the Chayiv. However, the Mishnah fears ice. I'm Lamed Chayva. The person who originally said Chayva, he could change his mind. Lamed Chus. He could change his mind and be Lamed Chus now. Avlam Lamed Chus. And Yachal Lamed Chayva. The one who's Lamed Chus can't go and switch his taina to say Chayv until we said in the Gemara before, until the very last minute.
Strengthen your opinion. Come in to change anything.
Well, he's allowed to think different. the mlamed chus, and then at the end but he's not allowed to say it because he'll maybe prejudice the other dayanim. At the end, if he holds the guys guilty, even if the first day he held to his putter, when he was ma'ayin the din, he held the guys guilty, he can't say anything that second morning. But by the end, when they do the minyan and they can't, okay, what do you say? What do you vote? What do you vote? He could change and say he's chayiv. Yeah. Tov v'davar, if they made a mistake in what they said the day before, Shnei Seifrei Adiyanim Maskirin I say the two Seifrim of the Diyanim remind them because they were taking notes. If you remember, we said this before. They're taking notes on what each of them held. In Matzul is chas, but true. If now on the second day they find them as chas, they send them home. Lav, and if not, they do a count. Now they do a count, and what happens? You have 12 people saying he's pater, and 11 people, because he had 23 totals, 12 plus 11 is 23. One is enough. If 12 are mezakeh, they're pater him. The achras mechayiv, and only 11 are mechayiv. So you have one more good than bad. Zakai, he's pater. Shnei maser mechayiv and ve'achras mezakeh. It's the other way around. You have 12 being mechayiv and 11 being mezakeh. We said that's no good because you have to have two, as the first Mishnah on the Pez Amar Aleph. Right. Va'afilu echad aser mezakeh and echad aser mechayvin. Now the Mishnah is going to say a chiddush over here. If you have 11 that are mezakeh and 11 that are mechayiv, the echad aymer ein yedei, and one of the yadim says, I don't know what the halach is. Va'afilu eser mushnayim mezakin, and even if you have 22 are mezakeh, are saying they should be pater, and mechayvin, you only have 22 saying he should be chayiv. However, the 23rd one, the echad amrini yedei, one says I don't know. If a person dayan says I don't know, dayan has to know the halacha. If a dayan says he doesn't know, he doesn't count in this Torah. You only have 22 dayanim here. That's what the Mishnah is saying. And therefore, yesifu dayanim. You have to add on dayanim because you don't have enough. 22 is not enough. So you have to add on dayanim. The karma myself, and how many do you add on? Shnayim. You keep on adding 2. So you add 2. And let's say you don't have still even. Let's say one goes one and one goes the other way. You add another 2. And you add another 2. And you add another 2. And shivim be'echad until you have 71 dayanim. Now, let's say you went all the way up to 71, you don't add anymore. Now, let's say you have Shleishim Meshishim Mezakim, V'Shleishim Mechamisha Mechayiv, and you have 36 saying he's pater and 35 saying he's chayiv. So Zakai, because you have one more pater than chayiv. Shleishim Meshishim Mechayiv and Shleishim Mechamisha Mezakim, let's say you have 36 say he's chayiv and 35 say he's pater. Now you have a problem. You don't have a roiv of 2 to say that he's chayiv. You don't have a atiyah of 2. So done in elu connected elu. So they handle with each other. Until one of the people are mechayiv says, you know what, you're not right, he's pater. Or we said in the Mishnah in the Gemara before that one of the pater guys changes his mind and wants to say chayiv. The Mishnah didn't say that case because the Mishnah would rather say a case where the guy's going to end up living. But really, it can go both ways. Strike the Gemara. How do you know this halacha that you have 7 chakiras? Yehuda says, the pasuk says like this. There's 3 psukim that Gemara is about to say. One pasuk is by Avodah Zarah, one pasuk is by Ir Nidachas, and one pasuk is by Edom Zaymin. Okay? So it says, one pasuk says, Davar Kav v'darashta v'chakarta, v'darashta you should look into it, v'chakarta you should look into it, v'sha'alta heitiv and you should look into it really well. That's 3. Darashta, chakarta, sha'alta heitiv. Sha'alta itself, Rashi explains, would not be a limit. Sha'alta is a weak question. It's not a heavy question. When it says v'sha'alta heitiv, ask really good, then that's the 3rd one. So that's 3. There it says in the 2nd pasuk, it was told to you and you heard it, and you should look into it well. So v'darashta heitev is again 2, v'darashta and heitev. So they have a total of 5. V'darshu ha'shayftim heitev. The shayft and the judges should look into it well. So v'darshu and heitev is another 2. That's 3 and 2 and 2 is 7. And so you should have 7 chakiras. Track the Gemara, maybe you don't have 7 chakiras all together by every kind of bezdin. It's each one where the pasuk is written. Then you have that amount. So irni dachas, it says 3. V'dirashta v'chakarta sh'alta heitim. That's 3. So irni dachas, you do 3. And avodah zara and by Edom Zemmin, those say 2 each. That you do 2. But there's no such thing as saying 7 chakiras to anyone. Like it says, because if it's really true that you have all 7 in every din Torah, let the Torah have written all 7 by one of those cases, by either Avodah Zara or Aaron Tachas or Edom Zaymin. The Torah should have written all 7 questions. And for the Gemara, even the Kulu Bahadi Adadi Ksiva, the Adadi Yalfi, since they're they all say you need to have Drisha. So they're similar in this thing. So we compare them all 3 to each other, and we say it's as if all 7 are written by all of them. Frak the Gemara, but even the Alfi Mi Adadi. If you're going to learn that one from the other, it's considered like it's all written by one, so you have 7 questions together. But you can't compare them. We always say when we want to learn that one thing from the other in the Torah, you need to have something to connect the two. So you have a Tereshava, you have a Hakesh, you have a Mamatzinu, this is Tzarashava. There's all different ways to compare the two, but you have to have them close to each other. Either the psukim are close to each other, or the topics are close to each other, or you have a Xereshava that's linking them. There's something linking them. Perhaps the Gemara over here, it's not linking them. They're not similar. Where it says Siman, Halit Sayif Hasra. Now the Gemara will go through and say why these three are not similar to each other. Irni dachas is not similar to Avodah Zara and Edom Zaymin Shkeim Moin and Palat, because by Avodah Zara and Edom Zaymin, even though they'll get Misa, still their money is safe. But by Irni dachas, the halach is that you destroy the whole city. Avodah Zara is not daima to Edom Zaymin and to Irni Dachas Shekem B'Sayif, because Edom Zaymin and Irni Dachas are both with Sayif, and Avodah Zara is with Skila. So the Misas are not daima to each other. Edom Zaymin lanachtar to Ledami, and Edom Zaymin is not daima to these two. The Irni Dachas and Avodah Zara Shekin Shichem Asra, because Avodah Zara and Irni Dachas need Hasra, but Edom Zaymin don't need Hasra. You know why Edom Zaymin don't need Hasra?
They already did.
What?
They already did.
Edom Zaymin is the second, the first pair of Edom. They were never warned. Don't say false testimony, because if you say false testimony, you're going to get kasher zaman. Right? No one said that to them. But the answer is they wanted to make this guy die without Hasra. Right? They wanted to make him die.
Their second pair.
The first pair is saying false testimony and saying we saw Reuven kill Shimon. Reuven did not kill Shimon. So they wanted to make him die without Hasra. So therefore they get killed kasher zamam even without Hasra. But Maisa, Edom Zaymin is different than the other two, because Edom Zaymin don't need an Hasra and the other ones need Hasra. And for the Gemara, you're right. You can't compare them topically. The subject is not the same, because they all have differences from each other. However, we have Xereshava. The Hativ Yalfin Me'adadi. You have Hativ. We have, the pasuk said 3 times Hativ. It said, V'dirashta v'chakarta v'shalta Hativ. It said, V'ugad l'cha v'shamata v'dirashta Hativ. And it said, V'darasha shoftim Hativ. So you have a Hativ, Xereshava, by all 3. That's going to be the connection between all 3. And Zakta Gemara, Xereshava mufna. It's a Xereshava that's mufna, that's open. Dilai mufna, if it's not mufna, ikla mifrach, you could ask a kasha. Before we say the kasha, the concept of mufna is like this. If you have a Xereshava, if you have a pasuk that's in one subject and a pasuk in a different subject, and the word is the same, and your Rabbein had a Kabbalah that this is a Xereshava from Moshe Rabbeinu, then you could go and darshan it. But if you're using the pasuk for something else already, then it's not quote unquote mufna. It's not open, right? It's used already for something else. So how can you do it? So there's a machlekes if you need Xereshava mufna or not. And there's also machlekes. There's even those who hold that you need that you need mufna. It could be that only one side being open is enough. You don't need both of them mufna. But the Gemara is going to say over here you have to say that it's mufna, that these are open. Because dilay mufna kol mifrach. Because if it's not mufna, you could ask Kash on this Gzera Shava and say the Torah cannot be comparing the two. And the truth is that it's mufna. The pasuk said the first pasuk said v'darashtu v'chakarta v'sha'alta eited. It should have said v'darshu v'chakru. What's v'darashta v'chakarta? It changed the way it's normally speaks. V'shani krabi diburei behetiv, and the Torah changed its words the way it normally speaks with saying the word hetiv. Shema mina lafniyeh. So you see that the Torah is trying to say that there's two things here. One is the drasha, the hetiv that you're learning, that it's the third question, and the other hetiv, and because it changed the lashon, that tells you that it's mufna. They use it as gzer shava. Frakti Gemara v'akati mufna. What? V'akati mufna mitzad echadu. It's only mufna by one because it's only mufna by the pasuk by Amir Nidachas. What about the pasuk by Eidim Zaynim and the pasuk by Avodah Zarah? Bishleima hanach tarti mufna hu mishum davle l'michtav. Bishleima, these two. I'm sorry, the other way around. By the pasuk is saying by the other two pasuk, by v'huga l'chav v'shemata v'darashta heitev, it should have said v'chakarta, and v'darshu ha'shayftim heitev, it should have said v'chakarta. It should have said v'darshu ha'shayftim v'darshu v'chakru ha'shayftim. I said it wrong before. The Gemara is saying before is when it's being saying mufna, it says by the pasuk by Avodah Zarah and the pasuk by Eidim Zaymin, it both says v'darashta heitev or v'darshu ha'shayftim heitev. Why didn't it say lashon chakira? Just like it said Be'yoni Dachas, that's the normal lashon that you say when you're saying to people, look into it deep. The Torah doesn't say it. It says a functional equivalent by saying V'darshu Heitev, look into it real good. But why doesn't it say V'darshu V'chakarta? So that's what the Gemara is saying. Since you see that the pasuk changed its lashon and put Heitev instead of a Chakarta, that teaches you two things. One is you have a Gzera Shava, and two is that a Chakarta, it's another question. But then for the Gemara, that's good by V'darshu Hasheftim Heitev and V'ugel L'chav Hashmat V'darash Heitev by Avodah Zarah and by Eid Zaymin. But what about Yirni Dachas? Yirni Dachas, it does say V'darash V'chakarta V'shal Heitev. So you can't have a taina that it should have said V'chakarta because it does say V'chakarta. Excuse me. So how do you have the Gzera Shava Mufna? The Gemara says Bishlam Hanach Tarti Mufna Misham Davle Michtav. The Avodah Zarah and Eidim Zaymin is Mufna because it should have said V'chakarta. El Irni Dachas Ma'avle Michtav. Haksiva Kulu. But Irni Dachas, what could the Torah have written different? It already said V'darashna and V'chakarta. It says everything. And the Gemara Hasan Nami Ifni Mufna. There also it's Mufna. The way the Torah writes it is to teach us also that the Heitev comes to tell you both things. The Havle L'michtav Darish Tidrash V'chakarta. Chakar Tachkar V'darashta V'chakar Chakarta. It should have said the double lashon by either Drisha or by Chakira, and that would have said to us three questions, because it would have said three words to tell you the questions. And V'shani Krabi Diburei Behetiv, and the Torah changed and didn't say the normal way that it should have said by saying Hetiv itself. Shema Mina Lafniyeh. That tells you that it's coming Lafniyeh to tell us that the word Hetiv you can use for the Gzera Shava. So that's how you know it. Now the Gemara has a problem over here because Avodah Zarah we said is with Skila, and Eidim Zaymin is with Sayef. Even though Eidim Zaymin can be wherever Kasher Zamam, but the Pashtus in the Pasuk Rashi explains is talking about a case of Ritzicha. Ritzicha, the Kasher Zamam is going to be Sayef. So, Frak the Gemara, that's good. So now I know Mises of Skila and Mises of Chenek. But Frak the Gemara, how do I know? I'm sorry, I might have just said it wrong. Mises of Skila and Mises of Herek of Sayef. How do I know Misa of Chenek? Misa of Chenek is a lighter Misa than all the other. It's the lightest of the four Misas. Chenek is considered, when we talk about it later on in the Gemara, it's choking, it's strangulation. It's considered the lightest Misa. So if this is the lightest Misa, how do you know that in this case also you still have to do all 7 chakiras. The Gemara says it's a kal v'chomer, but this is good. Va'asu nechnakin b'kal v'chomer min iskalim min haragin. We learn from skila and from sayif kal v'chomer to nechnak, the chenek, which is more kal, and v'asu nisrafin b'kal v'chomer min iskalim, and the sreifa, which is more chamer than hereg, than sayif, but still it's less chamer than skila, so we learn that from kal v'chomer from skila. So therefore we know that in those other misas you also have to have the 7 chakiras. This is only good according to Rabbanan. The Rabbanan say you could say this kal v'chomer, because according to Rabbanan the ranking is like this: least is chenek, then hereg, then sreifa, then skila is the worst. So you have a kal v'chomer. Rab Shimon, the Amar Sreifa Chamura. Rab Shimon holds no, that Sreifa is more chamer. So Mayikol Neymar, what are you going to say? So chenek is not a problem because you have, according to Rab Shimon, hereg is the easiest. Sayif is the easiest. We're going to meet Hashem. The Gemara is going to talk about it later in the Masechta, so we'll get to it. But Rab Shimon holds hereg. Hereg is the easiest, then chenek, then skila, then sreifa. So since we know hereg from Eid Mezaymin, so then fine, we're good. Now we know, and since we know skila, now we know hereg, which is less than it. But how do you know? And certainly chenek. How do you know sreifa though, which is the most chamer? Elam Rav Yehuda. So Rav Yehuda says a total new drasha. Forget heitev, no gzera shava heitev. It's a different one. Vine emes nachain, vine emes nachain. You have 2 psukim. You have a pasuk by Irni Dachas that says Vini emes nachan the Rash of Chakarta v'shalta heitev, like we said before, and the pasuk continues Vini emes nachan adavar. And then by Avodah Zarah it says V'hugad l'chava shemata with the Rash heitev, our pasuk before Vini emes nachan adavar nesa teva asais b'Yisrael. So you have these 2 psukim that are connected to each other. So now, emes and nachon, it's true and it's proper. This tells us 4 more times that you got to really look into it, right? Because it's the pasuk is saying that you really know it's true, you really know it's proper. Right? So you look into it again, and it says it twice. Twice by Avodah Zarah, and twice by Yerni Dachas. So Zak the Gemara, Hachad Sari, that's 11. Now you have 11 drashas over here, 11 Yisurim, right? 7 from before, and 4 more we just said now. Shava ala Shava Chakiras. 7 are for the 7 Chakiras. Dal Klas, the Gzera Shava. Have 3 for the Gzera Shava. Pashalu Chada, you have an extra one because you used 10, so you have a 1 more left. The Rab Shimon Lasu Nisrafin. The Rab Shimon will come to be Marvin Nisrafin because we said that according to Rab Shimon, how do we know Nisrafin? The Rabbanan Nos Lasim Kav Chaymer Tarach B'Kasav Lakra. According to Rabbanan, it's not true. You can learn from a Kav Chaymer, but we have a klal that even though sometimes something can be learned from a Kav Chaymer, the Torah sometimes writes it anyway. The God of Parabavo asked a strong caution this. He was not happy with this. Maybe, what are you telling me that this is coming to tell you 7 chakiras plus Rab Shimon or plus plus 3 for the Gzera Shava? Maybe it's coming to tell you that there are 8 chakiras, not 7 like we said in the Mishnah. Maybe there's really 8. In fact, the Gemara, do you have 8 chakiras? What's the 8th thing you're going to ask? Gemara says, why not? I have an 8th chakira. I could say, what minute in the hour was it? Was it a third of the way into the hour, halfway into the hour? What?
There's no minutes then.
So they didn't have minutes. Well, first of all, they had minutes. They just didn't have clocks. But Rashi says that you could say, I think it says a third into the hour, or 2/3 into the hour. Let me tell you what Rashi says. Yeah, Rashi says either halfway into the hour, half past, or a third past, or 20 minutes past. They were able to tell with some degree of preciseness. So the Gemara is going to say that you're immediately thinking that we said in the Mishnah, Rab Shimon says that people are not precise even up to 2 hours. So the Gemara says, but first the Gemara says, you could say what minute in the hour. We even have a price that says this. We have a price that says you'd ask 8 chakiras. What do you mean?
It means if there's so many Jewish chakiras, it's not going to mess up. It's not shy to do that.
So, I'm not sure what you're saying.
In fact, they have so many ways to get it that they're not going to mess up. So it's not a shy which hour it was, 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour.
Well, the Gemara is going to handle the point of whether they make a mistake in a second. But for this point of the Gemara, what the Gemara is saying is, since it's possible to have 8 chakiras, if it's possible to have 8 chakiras, then how could you say that you have 7 psukim for the chakiras, plus 1 for the Kavachimer for Rab Shimon, plus 3 for the Gzera Shava? Maybe it's not 7 plus 1, maybe it's really 8, and you should be asking 8 chakiras. Right? It's a kasha on our Mishnah. So now, the Gemara says, Hani chla Abaya, Libid Rab Meir, Gamer Ein Adam Toyav Leiklam. According to Abaya, according to Rab Meir, says, a person does not make a mistake in the time. So you could say, according to Abaya, that since people do know the time, people keep the time, you can have a good kasha and say that maybe it's 8 psukim to tell you 8 chakiras. Well, hachlish nami the amar adam tayamashu in a shapir. It's also, even if you say that a person makes a little mistake, it's also, you could say, hey, maybe you have 8 chakiras, because you should ask me these questions. Abaya libid Rabbi Yehuda the amar adam tayachatzi. According to Abaya, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he says that a person will mess up even a half hour, right? And according to Ravad, it says people make big mistakes in time. Then Maya Kalimber, what are you going to say? In other words, it doesn't help to say this chakira, because just like we said that if one guy said it was the second of Tavis and one guy said it's the third of Tavis, if it's a normal kind of mistake, then the Edis will still be good. The Edis will not be Mokeshes. Surely by the hour, if a person is normally makes a mistake, you can't have a time on him that one guy said it happened at 3:20 and one guy said it happened at 3:30 or 3:40. So then you certainly, according to them, you cannot say that there's 8 chakiras. Then, according to them, it's 7. What was that?
It's 7.
And you have to say it's 7. Gemara says, okay, I'll tell you another shot. El asuye b'kaima b'yovel. To tell you, this would be the question. The question would be on which year of the Yovel. In fact, the Gemara, that's the first thing we said. Which Shavua, which set of the Yovel it is. No, we're not saying which set of 7 in the Yovel. We're saying which Yovel, from the time that Yidden came to Beis Hamikdash, every 50 years is another. What?
How should you know?
Yeah. Well, guy is
The Idach, even the Amr Beis Shavua, like by Beis Yovel. The other one never says no. Once you already asked Beis Shavua which year, you don't ask Beis Yovel because, and this is what you said, you'd see all the way at the beginning. The Ein, I'm reading from Rashi. The Ein Edim Amtinu Nedusan Yovel Achvera. Edim don't wait from one Yovel till the next Yovel to what do you call it? They say the testimony. Okay. Rabbi Yossi says that you only ask 3 questions. You don't ask the Yovel question, you don't ask the year question, you ask the following 3 questions. You say which day, which hour, which place. That's it. That's all you ask. Tanya will learn in the Brisa. Rabbi Yossi said to the Chacham, according to you, Misha Bava Amar Emesh Hargai, a guy, 2 Edom came to Bezdin and said, we saw Reuven Koshiman yesterday. You started asking him, he said yesterday. You started asking him what year in the Yovel was it, what year in the Shemitah was it, what month was it, right? We know this. He said it happened yesterday, right? Amrullah, they told him, according to you, you're saying you're any better? You're saying you asked the guy what time it was, right? And what day it was. Right? He basically said, Yom be'ez shah be'ez makan. So you're asking which day it was. So according to you, Misha Ba Va'amar Achshav Hargai, guy came in and said, I just saw Reuven kill Shimon.
Today.
Yeah. I'm like be'ez yom be'ez shah be'ez makom. You say to him, what year, what place, what
year?
Sorry, not 1 year. What day, what time, what place? What
guy came, two guys.
Two guys came. But I said one guy. And two guys came to Bez and said, we just saw Reuven kill Shimon. Right? You say to him, oh yeah, what day was it?
You sure?
No, what day? We just saw it, right? Why are you saying that? So he's saying the Rabbanan are saying to Rabbi Yossi, right? You're no better than us. Yeah, maybe we're asking more, but you have the same problem. Even though you don't need to ask him, you still ask the Eidim these questions. Why? Because Rav Shimon ben Elazar, like Rav Shimon ben Elazar, if you remember, we had a Gemara that said Rav Shimon ben Elazar said they would pull the Eidim from one place to another, from this room to that room, to sort of discombobulate them, so that if they're not saying the truth, they won't do the Eidos. Hachinami here also, Afgav Leitzarech, even though you don't need to ask all the questions. You put all the questions on it like Rav Shimon Elazar says. Rabbi Yossi, Rav Yossi says, I'm not bothered by your kasha to me, because it's very common that Eidim will come in the day after something happened and say, this happened yesterday. But it's not common that Eidim will come in and say, this happened just now. Processing, you this, you that, you have to get to the best on the other side of town, which is not as common. Right?
I say, for kids, I got the novel, you see right now, you want the best,
we don't have this kind of scenario in our society, so it's hard for us to judge. But basically he's saying, based on his grasp of human nature and the grasp of how the society worked in those days, that that's not how it happened. You don't see the Rabbanan arguing on this kind of Rabbi Yossi. No, Rabbi Yossi is wrong. It could very well be that today it would be Pukvakar. But in those days, this is how it would be, Rabbi Yossi is saying. Zakti Mar Vaiter. Nakirim Atamaisai. Do you recognize him?
It's sat only Monday and Thursday.
What was that?
It's sat only Monday and Thursday.
Right.
Guy rushed to be there on Monday. Or Thursday.
It's an Amish.
Yeah, maybe. The Mishnah continued, Makir Matamaisei, Best says to Eidim, do you recognize him? Is he Jewish or not? So now the Brisa will go and explain all the questions the Mishnah asked. Tan Rabbanan learn. Makir Matamaisei. What's the question? Do you recognize him? Nachri Harag? Yisrael Harag. Did he kill a guy or did he kill a Yid? Yisrael somebody. Did you give him Asra? Kibul Elav Asra? Or was he Mekabel the Asra on himself? Or not? In other words, did he say, yep, I hear the Asra and I'm aware that I'm not allowed to do this. And I'm doing it anyway. Yeah, I'm doing it anyway. Hitra Atzman Misa, was he matter himself to Misa? In other words, when you Eidim gave him Asra, did you say, if you do this, you kill Yanam, you're going to get Misa, you're going to get Ritzicha? And he says, I'm doing it anyway. The halacha is that if a person did not say I'm doing it anyway, even though I know it's Chiyav Misa, you say, well, maybe he forgot the Hasra and you don't kill him. It's very, very difficult to kill somebody in a Yiddish or Bad Bestin. Because just the halacha of Hasra is so complicated, you have to mamish give a certain particular
average Joe doesn't know how to do it.
Formula of Hasra. The average Joe would probably not know how to do it. And then he has to do it b'tech k'dei dibur. The guy, you have to do it b'tech k'dei dibur of the guy killing the guy.
And the Mish is going to get it.
You have to tell him, yes, you have to mamish.
They don't see guy kills two guy. If you didn't see a guy killing, that's saw that don't have the hook.
So
some guy can kill somebody.
He's not off the hook because Bezdin, even when they don't kill somebody, Bezdin are makin b'einshin shleim and adin. Bezdin could be makkah and einish, be manish a person, even shleim and adin, and even in some cases to be kill somebody without one of the four mitzvahs Bezdin, but because society needs it. But he will not get the four mitzvahs of Bezdin that the Torah prescribed thing without Asra, without the exact things, except we said Eidim Zayim.
You see that killing somebody, you don't necessarily give him Asra. Oh, that kills him. Look. Stop.
Remember the story we had a couple of blot ago with Rishon Ben Chetach? He saw a guy running into a building, he was chasing someone else, and he came in and he saw the guy.
Never saw the guy. Never saw the guy do it.
Right? So,
circumstantial evidence.
And over there, what happened? Snake came and bit the guy, and he died. Right? So the Rebbeinu Shem does take care, but l'maisa it's very, very hard to have it a real misa investment because of these din masra. So that was what they asked him. Hitra atzim misa, was he matter misa? Now this next thing I said it ahead, but this is the same what I just said. Hey, Miss B'tech Dei Dibur, did he kill the person B'tech Dei Dibur of your hasra? Now, let's say they're coming to say Edus that somebody worshipped Avodah Zarah. Esmi Avad, the Pa'ar Avad, the Markulas Avad. Which Avodah Zarah? Did he go to Baal Pa'ar or Markulas or any other Avodah Zarah that we could have? Uvameh Avad, what kind of Avodah did he do for it? What kind of worship? Is he Ruach? Did he shat something? The Keter? Did he burn something as a carbon for it? The Nisach did he pour wine in front of it as an avodah? Did he bow to it? So all these are questions that you best would ask in these kind of situations. I don't think you're in Idachas needs Asra. I don't think so. I think we're going to get to that later in Mitzvah Shem, and I think it's probably because.
This whole city.
I'm not sure.
But they have to
I'm not sure. Let's hold off. The Gemara is going to talk about Aaron Dachas later, so we're going to get to that. Amar Ula, Minayin Hasra Min HaTorah. Ula says, how do you know Hasra Min HaTorah? Remember the pasuk says, somebody takes his sister, whether it's his sister from his father or his sister from his mother, and he's boil her, but it doesn't say he's boil her. He sees her erva. The Gemara, it's nothing to do with seeing. It means he had this with her, right? So what's seeing? Ella Achu Time Shel Davar. The pasuk is teaching us over here. They have to show the guy the reason why he can't do it. And tell him you are not allowed to be mizana with your sister because it's chiyav karas, etc. And any lakaras. If you can't, and now you can't say that this is telling you to give him hasra for karas because karas is beishamayim, and if the karas is beishamayim, then the Roshim doesn't need hasra. The Roshim knows if the guy was shaygur or mezid, right? The point of hasra is to make to be mechalak whether Shem is shaygur or mezid. You can't say that you were shaygur if you just got hasra with all the halachas of hasra. So we can't say it's something for karas. Let's say that it's talking about malchus that to tell the person that he has this chiyuv, and this in the makar. Reish Lakish says, Ula says for Asra. Let's stop here and Bez Hashem pick it up tomorrow.
Perfect.